The 43 cars that will take the green flag here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Quebec, getting ready to go out on the first pace lap.
If it's making news, he's talking about it. Elias Makos, CJAD 800.
Well, welcome to today's edition of In Transit, and today we're doing something unique because we are going to talk about cars, but a very specific type of car. NASCAR. Could NASCAR be about to roar back into Montreal? Sources close to the auto racing organization say yes, and that a race could be held next August at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. So far, though, despite the buzz, nothing has been confirmed. So let's go to someone who is in the know, who knows their racing world. Erik Tomas is with us from the Raceline Radio Network. Erik, how you doing?
Not bad, Elias. Nice to be on with you on the world-famous CJAD. First time in my 50-plus year career, 31 of those with Raceline Radio. Of course, we're on TSN 690 Montreal, the sister station down the hall, and they've been an affiliate of ours for a long time. It's the first time I've been on this radio station, so it's a pleasure to be on. And, yeah, here we go, talking about NASCAR stock cars, and just to sort of relay any kind of confusion about it. NASCAR is not the type of race car that we're talking about. We're talking about stock cars as opposed to Formula One cars or Indy cars. NASCAR are the initials of the organization that sanctions it or runs it, and that's the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, and that's what NASCAR stands for. So, you know, it ran here before with the Xfinity Series for 5 years, back in 2007 to 2012. So now they're talking about bringing a cup race, their top series. Xfinity was the number, the B series, the number 2 series. Now talking about bringing a Cup series back to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal. It's not as cut and dry to try and get it to happen, but at least they're talking about it.
So, and we played some audio from that last race that was in Montreal in 2012 off the top here. Right. So let me ask you it this way. Does Montreal need NASCAR or does NASCAR need Montreal?
Oh, wow. If you're looking for a fraction, it's probably leaned a little bit more towards what NASCAR is trying to do. And what they're trying to do, Elias, is they're trying to pick up the vibe that Formula One is enjoying by bringing their races to the various cities and festival kind of thing, that kind of like what you do with Montreal, with the Formula One race, with the Canadian Grand Prix that's been a staple at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the longest time. NASCAR wants to try and capture some of that. The hint of that was the simple fact that downtown Chicago.
Erik, let me just interrupt you there. We're just having a little issue with the phone line. Maybe if you can just readjust yourself, move to a different spot so that our cell phone connection gets back here, and then we'll have you.
Is that any better?
Oh, right now you're crystal clear. That's perfect. Okay, so get me back to what NASCAR, who they're trying to reach here. Let's do that.
Well, they're trying to get into the idea that IndyCar had used and Formula One has used for years and years, and that is bring the race.
Oh, Erik, sorry, you're breaking up again. We want to.
You're going to have to call me back, man, because I do calls from where I'm sitting all the time, and no trouble. So you must have a bad cell. Call me right back, and I'll jump on with you.
We're going to call you right back, Erik. I'll just recap what's happening here. And for those of you just tuning in, there is talk that NASCAR could be coming back to Montreal. I always find that's interesting, right? Because, NASCAR, you think about that sport, and I know traditionally they run on ovals, right? And the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is not, the typical NASCAR oval. That's one of the things I hope we can get from Erik here if we manage to touch base with him. Let me just tell you this, right? It's not just Montreal. NASCAR is looking perhaps at headed to other places in Quebec, even like Trois-Rivières, right? And I think it does show you the popularity that is coming to auto sports in general. I think we've got Erik Tomas back on the line here, Erik. So let's
testing 1 2, testing 1 2. No. Hello.
So Erik, give it to me here. Go ahead. What do you say on Montreal?
Yeah. What NASCAR is trying to do is grow internationally. So they talked about bringing a cup race to Mexico and doing another one to Canada. And the only place you can run it in Canada that would be big enough and important enough would be Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. What they're trying to do is capture that vibe that F1 enjoys and IndyCar has enjoyed for years, and that's bringing the race to a city as opposed to bringing people from a city out to an oval race somewhere way out in the boonies. And that's what they're trying to do. So now they're talking again about the possibility of bringing Montreal back into the NASCAR fold with a Cup race. And, of course, their top series, the Cup Series, has never raced in Canada before. Mm-hmm. But there are some other circumstances rather than just, finding a date for this and talking about maybe doing it in August, because being in Canada, your weather window is rather narrow compared to running NASCAR stock car races in the States where you don't have snow and you don't have cold. In Canada, basically, anything before the 24th of May, anything after Labor Day is kind of a weather crapshoot, which means you're going to have to run this thing either in June, or you can't do it in June because you have one race there, July, and then August. What that means, Elias, that you're probably going to have to take a race away from an existing facility that's been on the NASCAR calendar for a long, long time. And the other overlying decision-making in all of this is what the sponsors of the series want to do, because they support the series and they provide it with capital to operate in exchange for visibility, hopefully, to sell their product. Now, with the Cup Series, their sponsors is Busch Beer, which is made in Canada by Labatt, so you're okay there. Coca-Cola, which, of course, is sold in Canada. Geico Insurance, they don't insure Canadians, and Xfinity, which is an American integrated communications company. So if those sponsors believe that adding a race in Canada is going to be good for their business, they'll go for it. It's not just necessarily the logistics of NASCAR deciding, we can put one in there, we can squeeze another race in on the schedule. And the NASCAR schedule is long enough. It goes from, around mid-February to the first month in November. It's the longest schedule date-wise in professional sports. So do they want to elongate the season, which some people think is plenty long already? Yeah, maybe they will, but the sponsors will have, Elias, the ultimate decision on whether or not NASCAR brings any of their series back into Canada is whether or not the sponsors think that's a good business deal. If they do, they'll probably approve it. And that is probably the main reason why I heard your roll-up is the fact that, we haven't heard anything definitive of this. They had a summit meeting in England in June to talk about it some more. So, there's a circuit here. There's a willing city here, but there's a lot into making sure that the decision to bring the race here or not bring the race here. You can
and Eric,
kind of understand how it all works.
Oh, I totally understand that, especially on a week here, because right now we've got the tennis tournament in town, which is the National Bank Open presented by Rogers at IGA Stadium, right? So the sponsors matter so much to making any of these things happen. So let me ask you this.
Let me ask you a question, Elias. I mean, having been plugged in with Raceline Radio for 31 years, and TSN 690 has been in part of our family for the longest time. I'm under the impression, unless they've changed this, that the city allows Circuit Gilles Villeneuve and promoters to run at least two major events at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. One, of course, is the F1 Canadian Grand Prix. So is there still a window available through the city's auspices to be able to run this thing? I have not heard whether or not that situation has changed. I think they can do two. They're only doing one. So in terms of the municipality, in terms of city government, and how crazy that can get, do they still have a window available to do this, to allow two races in the city of Montreal?
Well,
that's another thing to consider. I still think it's okay. I'm just not exactly sure if that's changed or not.
And I don't have a specific answer for you, but I'll tell you this. They have put so much money into that racetrack that at least you have the case, hey, we spent so much money on the track, on the paddocks in the last few years. This is a better return on our investment. So I think they have that part of it. But let me ask you this. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, right? Like when I think of NASCAR stock cars, right, I think of them racing in an oval. And that's not Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And listen, they ran it for 5 years. Is it a fun course at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for this circuit?
Yeah, it is. And, I mean, they've run it for a while with Xfinity and the NASCAR Pinty Series, which is the Canadian National Stock Car Racing Sanction. They don't have an oval big enough in this country to stage a Cup race. So you got to go someplace where road courses are prevalent. Now, this year's schedule, they're not all ovals. They are predominantly ovals. Of 36 total races, this year's schedule, this is on the Cup side now, the top series, 5 road course races, including COTA in Texas that also runs Formula One, kind of akin to Montreal. But their primary focus, you're right, is still racing on ovals. But, in terms of expanding internationally, they know they're going to go into Mexico and Canada where they don't have an oval that is big enough to house and host a NASCAR Cup race. So the next best thing you do is either a road course someplace, like Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, formerly Mosport outside Toronto, or you go to a street course like Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. And I'll tell you something else, even though a preponderance of the schedule in NASCAR and stock car racing is ovals, because that's where it started and that's where a majority of it takes place. The guys who do this and turn left really enjoy doing the road courses, especially a circuit that is so good like Montreal. If it's FIA sanctioned, right, they like going left, they like going right, they like being beside a river, they like trees being there. It's a real treat, and you watch these guys run these cars. These are not just oval jockeys, man, and it's a lot harder than you think to run ovals, but they really enjoy doing the road and street courses, and that seems to be the trend that NASCAR is pointing to. So that is another positive to keep in mind on whether or not this race will land back in Montreal, or at least NASCAR will.
Eric, I hope it happens. Montreal's an event city, and this seems like it'd be a great event. Eric, we got to leave it there. I want to thank you for your time.
Always enjoy it, Elias. Anytime you need something else like this, give me a call. Be glad to jump on with you.
Absolutely.